weeks no doubt, but I did promise you this last one. Good afternoon everybody, Cam Biker here, still in the back cave. I've done quite a few videos in here now. I'm going to just do one last one for you, and I know it's one that a few people have been waiting for. So I'm going to show you today my last stand, the one I've bought most recently, and the one that is the most amazing. It's the Abba Sky Lift. If you've seen the Abba stands before, if you look at Mr. B's channel for example, you'll see the Abba stand. It's basically a souped up version of that. It's a version of the standard Abba stand, but you can lift the bike right up in the air. So it's depending on what you want. I mean, obviously you've seen I've got quite a few stands now, but depending on what you want, it can be the only stand you need. Although it takes a little bit longer to set up than just throwing a paddock stand under the rear wheel or something like that. So, but it can be the only stand you'll ever need. And it can replace a table as well. So it's quite a pricey item, but when you take into account what it can replace, all in all it costs you about the same amount as a table of any reasonable quality. Anyway, enough of that, let's have a look. Here are the main components of the stand. There are a few other bits and pieces that I'll show you in a minute. It looks quite flimsy when you first see it, but it's rock solid. It is seriously thick steel. I think it's rated for about half a ton of bike, but don't hold me on that, I might be wrong. Certainly the hydraulic arm here, or the hydraulic lift, is rated for much more than you'd ever need for lifting a bike. I think in fact, I don't need to think, I can see the limit is 3 tons. So if you've got a 3-ton bike, you might want to consider getting a different lift actually. But this is the main part of the lift, so that whole section is on wheels. So you can slide it around and you slide it under your bike. This section will be probably quite familiar to you if you've got an Abba stand. So once that horizontal red piece there is underneath your bike, this piece locks onto the other side, and this piece here goes into your swing arm. I'll show you the mounting in a minute. That other big bar, that allows you to do the clever bits. So depending on how you set up this bar and the strap that goes with it, you can lift your bike horizontally, or you can lift just the front wheel or just the rear wheel. These are the other key bits. You've got a strap here. This is the bit that allows you to determine whether you're in wheelie stoppy mode or horizontal lifting. This is an extended swing arm bobbin, if you like. So when you're actually using this strap, you put that in your rear swing arm and you use that strap around it. Although to be fair, you don't have to. If you don't want to use a bobbin, or if your bike doesn't have a bobbin, you can just strap that around the swing arm. Big Allen key that comes with it. Comes with everything you need to use it. And these are the fitting kits. So one of these goes in each side of your swing arm, and this is the bit that actually lifts it. Again, solid pieces of metal, and I've just written on them. I've got one kit for the Z750 and one for the Z1000SX, and you have a look at this on the internet, you'll see there's a lot of bikes that you can lift, you just need to get the kits. I'm going to be lifting the 750, so I have the 750 pieces, and because I can't remember which way around they work, I'm just going to try fitting them in each side of the bike just to make sure they fit correctly and I get the sides right, because you can see they are actually different depending on the side of the bike. So these go into the swing arm pivot, that one on that side, so this one goes in here. Now that I know which side is which, in the main mount, which I'm going to be putting on the side of the side stand on the left hand side, you just slide your piece in. Now a tip that I picked up from a guy down the street who was using an Abba stand is just pop a piece of tape on that, because they're not held in with anything, just friction. the tape just holds them in. You don't want these things falling out at the wrong time. Trust me, I've done that. And I was kicking the wall, getting Mrs. C's attention to come and help me because I couldn't hold the bike up and couldn't put it down, because once the stand's underneath, the side stand won't come down anymore. So it's definitely worth doing that. I did have a word at Motorcycle Live with the guys and said, look, can you not just put a magnet on the back of there? And he said that is something they have been thinking about, so maybe that'll come out in the next one. So there you go, just taped up. Now it can't fall out. And now at the other side, she's up here on my bench. So this is the other end. It's going to go in the right hand side of the bike. Again, just slide in the correct adapter. And again, I'm going to pop a little bit of tape on that. Just enough, as if by magic, again to hold the adapter in. The next job is just to slide the Sky Lift under the bike and line up the left hand side adapter kit with the swing arm. This is where you find out it's tricky with a big piece of equipment and a small garage. So I've got the lift underneath the bike, and now I need to make sure that I get the fitting kit into the swing arm. Now you probably notice I'm cheating here. I've actually got the bike in my other stand. I've bought this on purpose with my arm not being fully up to strength yet after my accident. I find it awkward and a bit too much to try and hold the bike upright while I'm doing this. This should make it much easier, because you don't have to hold the bike while you're putting all the other stands and bits and pieces together. So that just slides in. You can see, nice and true, make sure it's fully home. So once you're sure that's all fully home, brakes on. And now the stand can't move. Now it's time to put this piece on the other side. So this just slides on, and this is the bit that I found tricky because of my arm. You've got to get this in here. Sometimes it takes a bit of jiggling just to get it just right, and if you're doing it without the front stand that I'm using, you actually have to wobble the bike a bit. It all gets a bit awkward. Probably the worst part about this stand is this bit. Once it's on there, it's amazing. Make sure everything's seated as you want it, and then you've got two sections to tighten up. You've got a quick one that you do by hand, so that just makes sure the whole thing stays together, and then a secondary piece that you just whip up this bolt with an Allen key that's provided, and that's just an extra bit of security, because this frame that's now held together with these two bolts is going to take the weight of your bike. Finally, once you're sure that these are tightened, you tighten up the mount, and this just makes sure that they're fully seated in both sides, and you can see they're seating, and then you're just putting tension on to hold the whole thing together. I have to say, it's brilliant, and I've done this quite a few times, but it is still nerve-wracking. So you now see both sides plugged in, tightened up. I've put the bar in on the left hand side, just here. That's the bit I'm pumping up, slightly obscured by my bench, but as I say, it's a small garage. Normally I'd move the other bike out, but as it's absolutely chucking it down with rain, I don't want to. So now it's time to start pumping the thing up. Start lifting the bike. So at the minute I'm just lifting it with no attachments, just lifting it on the stand. This is going to lift the back wheel up. This is stopping mode, if you like. Now that I've reached this level, this is the safety level. So at the minute, all of the weight is held on this hydraulic ram. Once you get here, take your pin, pop it through, and you can release the hydraulic ram's pressure. And if you really wanted to store your bike like that, you could. You can actually see while I've done it, it's now released my bike from the front stand. So I'm going to take that front stand away in a minute. So ideal if you want to do any work on your chain, on your back wheel. Great for cleaning all these hard to reach areas. So that's stopping mode. Let's try a different mode. Before I do, just take the pressure off the pin. So take the pin out. And they've put in the kit, didn't used to get it, but you get these little holders now for everything, which is quite sweet. And then I can release the pressure, bring the bike back down. For the next mode, I'm going to need to swap my swing arm bobbin. Put in this longer one. For the next mode, I need to use the bar. For this one, I'm going to slide it here. Line it up roughly with the bobbin. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a bolt there. You tighten by hand, and then you can use the strap to connect the bobbin here to the bobbin here. This is very fiddly. Might take me a little while. So that's the main thing gripping. It can't slide out of there. And then you've got a second one just to be doubly certain. Make sure you put it on the right way because it will go one way but not the other. You don't want it loosening by itself. Okay, now because the back end is now tied to this piece here, this piece is going to go up and down, but because it's tied, it can't pivot the bike as much. So both wheels get lifted. So now the bike is completely airborne. It's actually hard to show you it all because the garage is quite small. But because the thing's on wheels, I can just move it around. I can't move it too far, I'm too worried about hitting my other bike. You can see now, very easy to work on the front wheel. Very easy to work underneath the bike. In fact, very easy to work pretty much anywhere. The only bit that might cause you any trouble is if you wanted to get the front wheel even higher still. For that you need wheelie mode. So let's set that one up. So for the wheelie position, it's just a case of setting up the straps slightly differently. So instead of using the arm, the strap's still going to go from the bobbin, but it's going to go down here. So we have to put the bolt out of the arm into the base, and this way the base obviously isn't lifting, so the back wheel is tied down. So you twist that in until it's roughly in line with the bobbin, and you've just got a nut on the other end to keep everything where it should be. Fine tune it once the strap goes on, and then again the strap around the two bobbins. Any slack will cause the rear wheel to lift a bit, but to be honest, having the rear wheel up a little bit can be quite useful, because then you can move the bike around. So that's the strap on. Now start pumping. So that's the wheelie position. You see the front wheel very high. The rear wheel is just off the ground, so you can still move the whole bike around. On this bike I can't quite lock it out at the top, so you wouldn't want to store it in this position if you can't lock it, and that's only because it's getting very close indeed, and probably got a little bit higher. See, the tyre is now touching the lift, and I'm just short. I suppose I could maybe roll it up a little bit, so I could probably just about lock it out. To be fair though, I have no intention of storing the bike in such a ludicrous position, as funny as it might be. You get more bikes in. So that's the Sky Lift. I think it's brilliant. It's not cheap, as I said, but I think it is worth the money. I like the quality of the thing. I mean, you can see the quality of metal. It's a decent thickness everywhere. Good gauge, I guess you'd say. You can see this, it's proper thick steel. It all seems very, very solid. Very solid piece of kit. If you look at some of the videos that Abba have put up themselves, you'll see that they've actually got people climbing all over the bike while it's on the lift, something I'm not going to do. Although with a green screen you could get some cracking pretend wheelies. The only downsides to it? Well, I mentioned already the fitting kit. If you only got one bike, you could probably just stick a bit of glue on the back of them. That's something that you could break them out of without damaging anything, but that would hold them in place. For me, the tape solves the problem of them falling out. Bit fiddly when you're getting it on. Unlike the standard Abba lift that you can kind of put in at an angle while the bike's on its side stand, you can't really do that with a Sky Lift because it weighs a lot. There's no way you're going to be tipping that back, so it's a bit fiddly to get that in. But aside from that, superb piece of kit. So I hope that was fun for you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.